I want to start with this though, real quick. I want to talk about Ben Johnson. I want to end this. I want to end the Ben Johnson stuff.
Thank you.
Before we get started, any Ben Johnson slander, out the door.
Well, slander out the door. Criticism is okay.
Criticism is fine.
Criticism is all right because he did not have his best game.
He had a tough game yesterday, but
last couple weeks.
Detroit. At the end of the day, this is the thing with Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is the #1 head coaching candidate in the NFL right now. Someone that called in the morning show this morning to say, hey, if Ben Johnson isn't here next year, I would be completely fine with that. That's ridiculous. You're 9-4 because of Ben Johnson. You're 8-2 to end last year because of Ben Johnson. Going into Sunday, you had the #2 offense in the NFL because of Ben Johnson. Remember when he took play calling over the first year? Everything changed. Last year, remember when everything was down, you were 1-6, guess what you had? You still had a top 5 offense on the field. Guess what you have this year? You still have a top 3 offense in the NFL. Ben Johnson is a big, yes, he didn't call the game great yesterday. We can all admit that. There were some situations. But with the situation with the turnovers and Jared, the way Jared Goff has been playing the last 3 or 4 weeks, there's limitations. There's situations where it's, hey, we have to do it this. Dan mentioned in his press conference yesterday, or today actually, he said, yeah, our game plan was majority of run. And then when you get down in the game in the second half, you get off your game plan because you have to, because you're down 2 touchdowns. And then you put Jared Goff in the situations to where he has to pass the ball. When we already knew, like, he was wearing gloves for a reason. So that's where the Ben Johnson slant, there's no reason for it. I don't know where it comes from. There's nothing for it though. There's not room for it.
He can be critiqued. He hasn't called his best game the last couple of weeks.
He can be.
He's been a bit predictable, and you got to find a way to get Jameson Williams the ball. There's no excuse for having 1 touch and 1 target. You got to find a way to get.
I'm not going to. So quit asking.
Yeah, that. You got to find a way. You got to get Jahmyr Gibbs involved in the passing game. You got to give him more complex routes. It seems like we had an opportunity, and this is how it started in the game. They were finding him in the flats, although they were basic, screens or flat passes. They were finding him, and it was working, and he was able to use his speed and explosiveness. And this is all with Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown taken out of the game because of how strong the Bears are in the middle of the field. If their game plan was only to run and they weren't prepared to come from behind or to utilize the pass game, that's a coaching problem. That's a Ben Johnson problem.
Oh, 100%. That part, yeah. And then the criticism, yes, can happen.
Right.
The last couple of weeks, but
I wouldn't want any other offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions right now.
When your defense is giving up that, like when you're giving up that many points, and you're still putting up 31 versus Seahawks, 20 versus the Falcons, 34, 42, 20, 26, 41, 31.
Remember, that's all with Jared Goff.
33, yes, and you're putting up 30 points. Like, you are one of the best offenses in the NFL, and that's with you have 1 wide receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown, who people argue aren't even top 10 around the league. You do have a solid running back duo. Ben Johnson has, what are we talking? 3 weeks ago, people were loving Ben Johnson, and all of a sudden, we've had a couple bad. Let's go. It's not. It's just not it to me.
Yeah.
Well,
I know you got the reverse take, so I'm actually interested to hear this.
I feel like as fans, we can critique, and our emotions get into it a lot. Ben Johnson has had great games this year, or good games, I would say, good games. The last 2 haven't been, the best games. I feel like sometimes with him, when we're up and we're doing great, which like most coaches are, we're fine. But when we're down and we have to come back, I don't trust him sometimes as much anymore. But I feel like with him, he doesn't use J-Mo a lot, and people can, say he doesn't know how to read routes or stuff like that. Like, Goff can't throw the ball that far, so that's one reason why. It's not Ben Johnson's fault. But to only use him 1 or 2 times a game, and the plays are usually the same plays, I don't get that. Or these, in the NFL, wide receiver screens only work with 3 people. I hate these bubble screens. I hate the screens. Some of the plays that we do just don't make sense sometimes. The
Jahmyr Gibbs bubble screen where he just dropped the pass and it would have been a touchdown. That was a great scheme. That was a great draw.
Why are you throwing screen passes to Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond and you have Jameson Williams? I don't. It's just stuff that screens are for people that can run fast, right? They're not the fastest dudes. Khalif's pretty quick, but I just sometimes I question his uses of certain players, and we have an issue because we have a lot of good players on our team, a lot of X factors on offense, but the usage of some players I just don't understand, and it shows because every game they say we're gonna use them and then they don't use them. I don't know if that's a Ben Johnson thing. I don't know if that's because we were losing or whatever. I don't understand it. And the deep balls with golf, like throwing the J-Mo, it's all golf. Golf can't throw the ball, so I get those, but like you can use J-Mo in other short ways or like other things instead of just like these end arounds. I don't understand that.
Facts.
And I think no disrespect to him. I love Ben Johnson's cool, but like the last couple weeks, I just haven't been the biggest fan of what he's been doing.
I think the criticism to that point, the J-Mo thing, the fact J-Mo only had one touch yesterday, that is an issue. Yeah. Yes, and I think Ben now he's going to hear a lot of the hate from it and a lot of people talking about him up with that. That is an issue. Yes, and he played what 40% of the snaps, 53% of the snaps.
58.
Yeah, so like him out there that many times and only getting one touch is.
He's out there that much, which means they trust him. So why are they not giving him the ball?
Yes, and Dan did talk about that in the press conference. They were like, yes, he's going to get the ball. He deserves. Like
he's been saying that for weeks.
He had. I don't know if you watched today.
Yes,
that seemed like it was like okay, this is an issue. Like so I think someone brought up the 58%, and he was like, okay.
Hopefully that's what when Ben or Dan Campbell's talking about getting irritated or getting a little more agitated with the coaching staff. Hopefully that's one of the points. He says, Ben, we got to get J-Mo the ball.
But just the thing, like I get the criticism, I think is fine from the
yes,
but the fact that there's people in my mentions in Woodward sports chats that are saying Ben Johnson is actually not a good OC and he shouldn't get a head coaching job or you would be better off without him. Those are the most ridiculous statements of all time. Yes. That is insane because Ben has changed this offense and he has made this a top 5 offense consistently for the last 2 seasons.
Yes.
With what he's had to work with at times. Like he's had times where Amon-Ra St. Brown's out and your number 1 wide receiver is Josh Reynolds. And he's still found a way to get this offense to go score 30 points in those situations.